This past weekend, Drew Brees apologizing, Brittany Brees apologizing. I think I really and truly, I think that the Breezes are over apologizing. If we're being honest to this point, and if you want to talk about somebody who is more, is there anybody more unrelatable in our country right now than Brittany Brees? I just think that they've heard enough. Everybody has heard enough. The public has heard enough from the Breeze.
It's probably weighing on her too. You know, if you like, if just put yourself in her shoes, and it's probably weighing because we see it from the perspective of people who are covering all these stories as they continue to break. So it does seem like it's like another one, right? But from her perspective, it's probably weighing on her. She felt like she wanted to kind of say her piece. Now she's done that. And like everybody says, and like you said on SportsCenter, Jordy, which shout out Jordy on weekend morning SportsCenter, one of the prime slots, killing it. But yeah, now's the time for action, and that goes to everybody. That goes from Drew, that goes to the NFL, as Roger Goodell has now firmly planted the NFL's flag on the player sides of these issues. I'm interested to see, even though they did do it in a Friday news dump, which is a little interesting. Literally the time when they tell you to release news that you don't necessarily want to dominate the news cycle. So now I think from just this sports focus that we talk about, it does become about action. One thing out of this, if we want to kind of apply this to sports, maybe on the field, one thing that as a Saints fan, I think you can feel very good about, Jordy, is this team, this locker room, and we knew this, but this is one thing to prove. This locker room has incredible leadership, right? And it's not just Drew Brees. In fact, it extends far beyond him. It's because of guys like Demario Davis and Alvin Kamara, Mike Thomas, and all these other guys that they were able to get through this. And Sean Payton, I want to highlight that as well, because it feels like Sean Payton was a huge catalyst in navigating these kind of troubled waters, right? When you hear about the Zoom meeting that they had that Shaquille O'Neal was randomly on because he's already scheduled to speak, and how open, and you hear Sean Payton talk about Bill Parcells always taught him, and this came from Parcells' Italian mother, that confrontation's good.
Yeah.
It's healthy. It's how we grow. It's how you improve upon things. That yeah, they had to have some real talks, and it looks like they did, and it looks like they came out of the other side pretty united. And honestly, if we want to remove kind of the heat and the anger from the situation a bit, and we look at this objectively, and a lot of this will be contingent upon what the actions go on to be, but this is almost like a great story of the power of conversation, growth, speaking with your fellow citizen who may have had a different life experience of you, being empathetic and allowing that to inform your own opinion. So, like, this is a story right now that I think is taking a positive turn, and potentially in the future, when we see what the actions actually end up being, it could be a really hyper positive story. But it remains to be seen. Either way, though, it looks like the Saints, even if everybody that used to cheer for the Saints isn't back on board with Brees, it does seem like the New Orleans Saints, the team itself, is presenting a united front.
Yeah, it seems like Friday night that Shaquille O'Neal was a part of a team meeting that he was originally scheduled to be a part of over a month ago, and the Saints kept that on the books, didn't change it. So Saints invited Shaq into their Zoom meeting, which featured the majority of the roster, in which Drew Brees, by some accounts, I think that Peyton kind of wanted that meeting muzzled, and Shaq, wanted him a little confidential on it. But it seems like that Brees was pretty emotional in his apology, and it was accepted by some of the team leaders on just getting the chemistry back. I don't know what was said. I don't know what the apology centered around. I don't know what he was asking forgiveness for.
Stuff.
Right, that's all in-house. But it seems like Friday night was a pretty emotional night for the New Orleans Saints current roster in trying to repair any type of distrust that was caused throughout last week. So
that's how you grow.
I see that, and I agree with that. In fact, our family got together yesterday. We have a big Italian family who sits around a 20-foot table on Sundays, and when my grandfather was here, it was it was written into law that was going to happen every week. And since his passing a couple of years ago, it has become a little loose. But to get everybody around the table yesterday and hear points of views and hear people talking, it felt good to do that. And I think that's a microcosm of of the public and a microcosm of how you can find change. And there's going to be uncomfortable parts of it. There's going to be some points of it that are uncomfortable. And right now, LSU, from a public relations standpoint, as we mentioned inside of the headlines, is going through some of that. And if you're on Twitter and you're watching LSU on Twitter, I mean, they're going back and forth with their own students, their student athletes, on policy right now concerning race, after a student from West Monroe was on social media talking that I hate, the N-word very, very viciously into a camera, and then uploading that onto social media. And now, the students and student athletes want to see some type of reaction. They want to see some type of reaction to this after LSU came out and talked about their stance on the policy. And now they're just copying and pasting a policy that looks like they're actually going backwards from a PR standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You read about they claim a constitutional limitation. You read about the things that can get you revoked, your admissions to a college revoked, and it seems like colleges can kind of do it on many grounds, whatever they find. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that I am. But I imagine that you could not let this kid base on this. And before you come at me with any arguments about diversity of thought, look, I agree. I am a champion diversity of thought. I believe in trying to look at issues from all sides, but at a certain point, you have to draw lines. You have to say, okay, is there any substance here? Is there any value here? And what he expressed was not really diversity of thought as much as it just was something more akin to hate speech. And you can, I mean, that is illegal. That can get you in trouble. So I don't think this is an argument of like, oh, you're not allowing a conservative opinion. And if you're someone who's arguing that, well, that's pretty messed up. We're like, well, what does that say about your conservative opinions? Like, this should not be representative of any one political party. This is speech that everybody should be united in standing against.
Either way, LSU public relations has got a mess on their hands right now. That they are looks like they're losing the battle right now from a public relations standpoint. So I'd imagine that there's pretty big meetings happening on campus this morning. One thing that got me going over the weekend, and I see this, and we've talked about what Jacques been doing on social media, and Jacques been doing a fantastic job during the pandemic and kind of trying to find some old stories and scooping up some stories and bringing in people that are relevant. And one of the guys that he had last week was Les Miles. And Les Miles made a quote to Jacques about the 2011 BCS National Championship game, the loss to Alabama, the night in which his tenure just took a total, U-turn and started headed backwards. He told, I think the coach could have done some more. I told UT that I had a nice little buzz working on Friday night when I saw that go across social media, and I just started going in on Miles. I heard from Jacob Hester, and I tell Hester this all the time. He's the only reason why I feel guilty in talking about Les Miles in the way that I do publicly, because I've said it here and I said it on social media. I think Miles is the all-time worst LSU coach. I mean, I think he just the squandered of talent, the mediocrity accepted during his time, and the resources that he just squandered while he was here it really is you can't excuse it. $50 million later. To me, I think that Miles is the ultimate bust as a head coach. And Jacob Hester and I usually go back and forth on that because Miles is his guy. And I get that. We were going back and forth on Friday night. But when I saw that quote come across on Jacques' timeline where he said that, I think the coach could have done some more. I mean, has there ever been a more obvious statement made in sports than to hear this guy finally 9 years later come out and say, you know what, that night, man, we really kind of flubbed it. We didn't give LSU the best chance to win the game. To hear him finally say that, there was never a more gratifying moment for me, T. And I know that this is something that you try to forget, but it really was from just from cinematic standpoint. I mean, it was gold to see your dad in that post-game press conference going one-on-one with Miles just to say, like, what were you thinking coming into this game? What was the game plan? What was the thought? What were you even trying to get accomplished when you rolled out this game plan, and just see him up there sipping the water like nothing had happened? I mean, it was the moment where I thought, he'll never get me back as far as the respect level goes. Because to have the opportunity with the team that you guys had that night and close it out, you guys could have been what this team is experiencing, you know, in the discussion of the best college football team of all time.
Yeah.
And to have you guys so utterly unprepared and to walk in there with that nonchalant attitude, like it's not a big deal and that the program was going to recover, and to see the comment 9 years later. I went in on it on Friday night on social media. I got caught up.
Look, yeah, the only thing that I don't like about that interaction is that I think it's the birthplace of all the rumors and everything that I get asked about every single day of my entire life. And look, I hold no personal animosity towards Coach Miles. I've written about this extensively online and reflected on this. So you talk about the talent that he squandered, right? Well, being a head coach, though, you are the CEO of a program. You have a lot more just in on-field responsibilities. The reason why there was so much talent, a lot of it, was because of him and the program he put together and the assistant coaches and the recruits. So I'm thankful for a lot of things, but there is no doubt we were woefully outcoached in that national championship and outplayed, but a lot of times it goes part and parcel.
So many times. I mean, you talk about the talent, the reason why he was bailed out 85% of the time for those over 110 wins was because of the talent.
Well, what does that tell you then? If you want to be a good college football coach, you got to recruit.
No doubt.
Bottom line, if you can recruit, it'll take care of a lot of the issues.